Hey guys, welcome to How to Do Computers. I'm Mike, and today I'll be going over using Duplicati to safely and securely encrypt and back up your files to the cloud. So I believe that if you are going to have files sitting in the cloud, especially if it's a third-party provider, you should make sure that those files are stored with good encryption to avoid that data being either compromised by attackers or by the hosting platform itself. So the reason I chose Duplicati over similar applications is that, in my opinion, it's more versatile, and on top of creating encrypted copies of your data, you can point the backups wherever you like, even multiple copies of the same datasets. Duplicati is a very useful tool, and what we're doing today is just one of many ways that it can be used. Given that, you can use it with pretty much any cloud storage service that allows local file syncing, including OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, and so forth. I'd recommend something like a virtual private server hosting Nextcloud or something similar if your privacy threat model doesn't allow for installing those more invasive apps on your machine. For now, just for demonstration purposes, I'll be using Megasync to store our backups, as their desktop client is open source and their free tier gives us a decent amount of free space to work with. We already have that installed on this machine, so let's go ahead and take a look at Duplicati. It can be downloaded here. I'll make sure to link that in the description below. Let's go ahead and grab the Windows version. Once it's downloaded, go ahead and open it up. It'll open an installer wizard. We'll just click through the options here and install it. And then finish and let Duplicati launch. When it's launched, it'll ask you if you want to set a password. I recommend doing this if you have multiple users on the machine. For now, I'll select no, as this is a test machine with only one user. And then you'll be dropped into the dashboard. You'll notice that the interface launches in your web browser. Duplicati runs on your computer as a web server pointed at localhost, aka your computer, and the default port is 8200. That can be changed in the settings, but I'll leave it there for now. If you go down to settings, you can see there that there are many things that you can change to suit your needs, such as allowing remote access to the interface, adding a password, usage statistics, and more. I'll leave this all as default for now, as it does what it needs to right out of the box. So I have here on my desktop a folder with some important data that I want to keep backed up, but I also want it to be encrypted before it hits the cloud to ensure that it's safe even if my account is compromised. To do that, let's go back to our Duplicati interface and then select Add Backup, then configure a new backup. Click Next. Here we'll give it a name. I'll call it My Data. You can enter a description if you like, and then you can choose your encryption type, or if you want to choose no encryption at all, I don't recommend that. And then you want to give it a nice strong passphrase. You can use the generate button down here to generate a strong passphrase. I'll go ahead and use that for now. And make sure that you save this in a safe location, such as a password manager. If you lose this password, you won't be able to restore your backups. Go ahead and click Next. Next, you'll set the destination of your backup, or where you want the files to be copied to. I'll note here that Duplicati does have native integration with several cloud services, as you can see here. I've had issues with this in the past, and in my experience, it can often be buggy or stop working altogether, which can cause issues and even corrupt the backup. However, your mileage may vary, so you might want to try this, especially if you had rather connect to the service without having a proprietary application running on your computer. For now, I'll stick with the local folder option, and then I'll find the Duplicati backups folder that I've created in my Mega Drive. Go ahead and hit Next. Here we'll set the source data, or the data that we want to have backed up. I'll select the My Data folder on the desktop, and then hit Next. On the next screen, you can set a schedule for the backup. Setting this up is pretty straightforward. You'll set whether you want the backup to run automatically, then you'll set a time for it to run, and then you'll choose how often to run it for. I'll leave this all as default for now, and then click Next. So when Duplicati creates a backup, it splits it into volumes. This helps in two ways: by breaking up larger files to allow for easier upload, or by grouping many small files together to reduce the number of calls to a remote server. These volumes are then compressed and then have encryption applied to them to secure the contents. You can change the size of the volumes here if you like. For backup retention, this allows you to specify how long files and preserved changes to files are kept. I'll leave all of this as the default and then click Save. Once again, make sure that you've stored the passphrase safely and then hit yes. At this point, the backup is ready and will run on the selected schedule. You can also force a manual backup by clicking here on Run Now, which I'll do. We don't have a whole lot of data in that folder, so it finished fairly quickly. And if we go back to our mega folder, we can see that under Duplicati backups, our files are here, contained within the encrypted volumes. Now let's look at restoring a backup. Let's go to Duplicati and then go to the Restore tab. Here there are three options. Direct restore from backup files, which allows us to load a backup directly that isn't already loaded into Duplicati. For instance, if we're restoring files on a new computer after a drive failure. You can also restore from an exported configuration, which I won't go into here, and then you can choose to restore from any backups that are currently connected to Duplicati. Let's look at that one real quick. Go ahead and select it, hit next. Here you can browse the archive and choose to restore various files within your backup. You can also choose earlier versions of the file, as Duplicati will keep earlier versions based on what you entered earlier for the retention settings. So let's say that for whatever reason we lost some pictures, they became corrupted or were deleted. To restore those, you would simply go into your restore settings, find your data archive, and then find the files that you would like to restore. In this case, it would be the pictures. Hit continue. Here you're allowed to pick a location. We'll stick with the original location for now, and then we can choose whether or not to overwrite any existing files or to rename the restored ones if there are any duplicates. And then we'll click restore. It looks like the files were restored, so if we go back into our My Data folder, we can see that the pictures have been restored successfully. Now let's say you're on a new computer and you want to restore your files from the backup. You'll go ahead and make sure that Duplicati is installed and that you have your backup archives. Then you'll go to Restore, Direct Restore, hit Next, and then you'll want to locate the backup archives here. I have them saved to my desktop. Click Next. Hopefully you stored your passphrase in a safe location. Go ahead and enter it here. Hit Connect. Again, here we can choose which files and which versions we want to restore. We'll go ahead and select All Files, Current Version, and then hit Continue. We'll pick a location that we want the files to be restored to, browse to our desktop, and then we can add a folder to the desktop by selecting Manually Type Path after we've selected Desktop, hit a backslash, we'll call it Restored Files, and then we will restore the files. If everything goes well, then your files should be located in the Restored Files folder, and there they are. And as simple as that, you've restored your cloud backup from a catastrophic failure, all while maintaining the privacy and security of those files in the process. So that about wraps it up for this one. As always, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or if you run into any issues, and I will see you in the next video.